Hi, everyone. This is Jacqui Cooper with JCooperTravels, and I am again excited to have Joshua Thompson on. It's a continuing conversation. He's the owner and the creator of the Thompson Tax Group. We're going to be talking a little bit more with him in a quick second. For those that don't know about JCooperTravels and the talk show, we are online, both an audio talk show as well as through YouTube, so that way you can actually see the visual. And one of the things that I am trying to do with the show is to provide a variety of information and inspirational stories on from entrepreneurs and individuals who are both in the finance area and the travel area, and the health and wellness area, because we travel through our life both geographically, and I love to travel around the world, but we also travel both in our personal life as well as our career. So that's why we're talking today about finance. We're talking about taxes. We're talking about 3 updates, so that way, as all of us, plan our taxes and look forward in the new year as to what we do, we have to think about these things. And I do want to encourage everyone to like and subscribe to the podcast, because Joshua and I have had some major conversations about the tax code, about how to properly plan if you're an individual or if you're a business. And these conversations might provide insight to you and a little bit of guidance. So Joshua, thank you so much for being on today. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Thanks for having me. I'm doing wonderful. Looking forward to this weekend coming up. I spent some time with the wife and the new baby boy, but I'm excited hopping into tax season. So it's just getting started.
It's just getting started, and now you have a new write-off.
Exactly.
So I know that we've covered a lot of topics, but today we're going to talk about 3 topics. We're going to talk about 3 areas within the code. So I know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the area about COVID and write-offs involving some of the health expenses, right? And then we're going to be looking at some sort of employee write-off that I know I don't have my notes in front of me, so you'll correct me.
3 or 4.
And another business write-off. So I'm going to let you take it away and hit all 3 of those areas, because they could apply to anyone.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the biggest things a lot of people aren't out there talking about, aren't communicating, you don't see it too much on the internet or people interviewing people about, but is the section, it's a form 7202, and that's the form for sick and employee leave. If you have a business and you had to take some time off for COVID because you had COVID or a family member had COVID, or even if your kids had to be homeschooled due to COVID and them not able to go to actual school. If you had days in the business where you're not able to do business at all because of those reasons, there's a credit that you can actually apply for those number of days you weren't able to work. And that's a credit that, a dollar for dollar reduction in your tax bill. So that's one great thing that's out there that they added to help people out.
So let me ask that question. You said something that really piqued my ear, because being a teacher as well as an attorney, there's all these things that are going through my mind. You said that, I understand if you get sick. I understand about, from that perspective, but you said if, let's say, you had to homeschool your child and you were not able to do your business because of homeschooling, you're able to write off what exactly?
Yeah, so it's a credit. So if you have, say for instance, you had 10 days, which the most people had way more than that, 10 days of in 2020 that you couldn't do your business at all on these days because you had to homeschool little Timmy or little Sarah or items like that, or individuals like that, because you needed to make sure that they're doing their schooling while they're home and you couldn't work in the business. So what you do is you take those 10 days when you get ready to report your tax return, or you meet with a tax professional, you let them know, hey, I had these number of days that I wasn't able to work due to taking care of a family member that was homeschooled during COVID. That they'll add that into your tax return and you get a credit against the amount of tax you owe.
How much per day are you able to calculate for that credit?
So it depends on your income level. It's a small credit, but it's a credit that helps nonetheless. It maxes out at 10 days. And that's why I was kind of using the example at $511 for the credit. But that's, a good $511 that can either take care of your tax preparation fee, or it could take care of anything else, or, put that money back in the business to help you out moving forward.
That is huge. That is huge. I have not heard of that. And I know that when I push this out to LinkedIn, I mean, you think about all the parents out there that had to pause more than 10 days and support their child in a homeschool situation. That's huge. I mean, that really has been underspoken about. That might not be the correct word, but again, that's a big secret. I mean, maybe it's not so much a secret, but you're right. We're not talking about that.
A lot of people don't talk about it because it's one of those things that, people are expecting for thousands of dollars in a credit, but really it may not be thousands of dollars, but it's still that much more in a credit that you could claim for if, you had that business to help reduce your tax burden or increase your refund.
Well, the other thing is credits, for those that might not know, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, credits are usually on the front part of your return page. So then it's subtracted directly off of your tax dollars. So if I'm seeing it, I'm seeing the form in my head. So it's a really deep deduction that could happen because of that credit.
Yes, exactly. The credit is a dollar for dollar reduction in your tax. A lot of people get it mixed up with the deduction versus a credit. The deduction thing, okay, yeah, you had $500 you spent on office supplies. It will reduce your income by $500, but not necessarily your tax by $500. The $500 credit, or whatever it may be, it goes after you calculate how much you owe in taxes, and it directly reduces that number. So that's what the power of a credit, even though it's $511 credit, it could have equivalated to, $1,000 to $2,000 in an actual deduction if it was a deduction instead of a credit.
Yeah, no, that's huge. All right, great. So we've just talked about a really amazing credit that I know a lot of business people probably don't know about. Let's go to the next item on our checklist.
Yeah, so the next big one is one thing that some people may heard about or know about is the recovery rebate credit. Basically means if you receive the stimulus check or you didn't receive the stimulus check, this is where on your tax return you report how much you received, if you received it or not. And if you didn't receive it yet, what they'll do is they'll add in that credit to what you should have received in your stimulus check and then put it on your tax refund or reduce your taxable amount owed. Is another credit. So, it's better than a deduction, and it'll help you out. That way you can claim what you're actually owed and entitled to. For example, if you had a baby, like we had a baby at the end of December. So we technically qualify for the recovery rebate credit for my son that was born because we didn't get the money when the first stimulus check, because it was before he was born. But because he was born in December, we get to take advantage of the first stimulus check, and we get to take advantage of the second stimulus check that came out at the end of December.
So if someone did not get last year's check, then that would be a credit, you're saying?
Correct. They'll give you the credit or they'll refund it to you if you're due a refund.
Okay. All right. So again, everyone, definitely reach out to Joshua. He can definitely help you with this if you don't have your own tax advisor, but definitely Joshua can, he's super busy, but he's always looking for new clients, and he's definitely knowledgeable about this. So I don't want to misstate anything because I'm not a tax advisor, but as I'm hearing this, I hear, again, another click down, these are all subtractions against possibly what you might owe. And that means that it can only help you with your bottom line. So the first one, we talked about just the idea of a credit if you are homeschooling. The second is credit in terms of if you didn't get your check. All right, what's the third thing?
Yeah, so let's round the bases. So the last thing would be the employee retention credit. And that's another big one if you're a business owner, one that they brought out. And what's awesome about the employee retention credit is at first, if you received the PPP loan, you weren't able to use this credit. But now they changed the law retroactively, meaning that before the law even passed, they'll allow it to take effect, basically saying that you could take advantage of the employee retention credit even if you receive the PPP loan. Now, the only difference is it has to be different time periods. So if you use the PPP loan in October, the employee retention credit can only count for November or items like that. It can't be an overlap in the time period where you use the benefits. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so that would not probably apply, again, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're self-employed. It would only apply if you have someone that's on your staff, correct?
Correct. Even if you're self-employed and you have someone on your staff, you could take advantage of this credit as long as you qualify for it. And there's two main areas to qualify for it. You'd want to sit down with your tax professional, or you give me a call. We can kind of talk a little bit more in detail about it and see if you actually qualify. But the first one, if you want to use it for 2020, is you get up to $5,000 for the entire year for an employee that qualifies for it. So that's a $5,000 credit that you could get back in your business based on the wages that you paid to your employee. And then there's a second version of it as well that actually applies to 2021 and actively ongoing right now. And instead of $5,000 in total, it could be up to $14,000 in a credit back to you as long as you qualify for it in that case. But it's a great way to keep some money in the business, especially if you took care of your employees and you helped pay them or even gave them a partial wage or whatever it may be. As long as you qualify for it, you could get that credit to help you out in your business, put the money back in your business.
Yeah, because a lot of businesses, as we know, are still struggling. And so this is a way that you're able to spread whatever you have out longer and still maintain your staff and that type of thing. These are three great areas. Now, I do want to mention for those that are just listening and not visually seeing on the YouTube side of it, Joshua's phone number is 805-364-0908, and that will be in the block below the podcast as well as the YouTube. And you can also reach him at Joshua at thompsontaxgroup.com. And if for some reason, and that's Thompson with a TH, OMPSON. Again, if you cannot remember that, or if you're driving and it's just too much to take in, just remember JCooperTravels at gmail.com and definitely reach out to me. So I will have all that information down in the block below. I will also, as part of my goal to make sure everyone enjoys travel savings as we start moving around, I will also put my discount wholesale code down there so you can enjoy up to 35% savings on your travel. And don't forget that when you do travel, message me so I can talk to you about insurance, because again, accidents do happen. You never know. And if you're traveling for business, it's a write-off. So, again, check your advisors.
Use the credits as travel for business. And now you get the double kind of deduction, double dipping.
Yeah. And, again, I know we're all going to be moving around. And that brings up another thing. I did hear through the grapevine, and so you can tell me if it's true or not, that some of the expenses that we might be purchasing for COVID, such as masks and things like that, some of those might be considered write-offs under certain categories. Is that true? I don't want to put you on the spot, but it just popped into my mind. So
that's a great question. And yes, they are considered expenses for the businesses. And even if you're using the PPP loan, they now put language in there saying that if you did buy PPE, which is personal protection equipment for your employees or yourself, that you could deduct it in the business because of COVID.
Yeah. So all of these things, that's one reason why it's really important to have a tax advisor like Joshua, just because these little things add up. But if you can write them off, that means it's more money that stays in your pocket. And it's just like what Joshua is saying, is it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. So any last minute thoughts that you don't want to share? I know we're going to have more conversations down the road.
Yeah, Jacqui, other than that, I appreciate you having me. It's always a pleasure to be on the podcast. The only thing I would say for the listeners is, if you're doing your tax preparation yourself, I would highly recommend trying out a professional to work with, see what they could do for you, make sure you're doing everything correctly. And then throughout the year, if you ever want to feel like you're just paying too much in taxes, reach out to me. I'd love to do some tax planning. That's what I usually do, is a lot of tax planning for businesses owners and individuals to figure out what strategies are they not using or taking advantage of.
Yeah, and I would just mention, I know that there are a lot of online programs, for tax preparation, but I do think that using someone as an advisor, one, you can, again, correct me if I'm wrong, you can write it off, you can put it on as an expense. And a lot of times you might not always be thinking about some of the nuances. So in the traditional online platforms, they might ask you some standard questions, but you might have a unique twist on something. And in brainstorming with an advisor, that might actually end up saving you more money in the long run. And so I definitely think check out having a professional advisor for sure.
Yeah, definitely. One day we'll do maybe a horror stories of the individuals I've worked with in the past that tried it themselves and something big, not so good happens. Spoiler alert.
Definitely. All right. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.